Welcome back, everybody. JumpX podcast, episode number 40. 40 episodes.
Wow.
And we have a very, very special guest. One I've been wanting to get on for a long time. Someone I've known for a while. Actually had a little contest with him back in 2020, behind the back. I still owe him a meal. Travis Reynolds.
Like,
What's up,
you gotta
guys?
fill everyone in with that. I think a lot of people would not know what that is.
Do you want me to tell him, Travis? Do you want to explain it?
I can do it. So basically in 2020, me and Tom both wanted to hit it behind the back. And we decided to make it like a friendly competition. We just decided to race so you could get it first. And it was a very long battle. I forget exactly how long it went on for, but
Couple
I
months.
remember like every day I would wake up and I'd go straight to Instagram and I'd be looking for your post and like, did he beat me? Did he beat me? And I'd be refreshing. And then I'll see you get like a super close attempt. I'm like, oh, I survived another week. And
Yeah.
eventually I took the dub. I got the behind the back first. You got it like right after me though, if I remember correctly.
Maybe
It
like
wasn't long
a month.
because I think I got it on October 3rd or 2nd or either 2nd or 3rd, and you got it pretty soon after. But yeah, the reward was like a free meal at dunk camp or something. So we gotta make that happen one day.
Yeah.
A free meal. We already
Yeah.
get pretty much free meals at dunk camp, so
Mm-hmm.
it has to be like dinner.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure some
No.
people like
Yeah.
a bet, right? I think it was you, me, and it was someone else who wanted to get a piece of it. I can't remember who it was though.
Who was it? I don't remember because
I
like
think it was Nathan for some reason.
wasn't Nathan? I don't know, dude. I don't remember because like
No, it's probably
here's the
hack,
thing,
man.
me and you,
Yeah.
me and you were close. Like we were backrooming it and stuff like that, but I don't remember the other person being that close because I don't remember feeling threatened by them.
Okay. Okay.
You were scaring me. I was like, I didn't want to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kept
Well,
refreshing.
I was like at the same point for so long, just like back rooming, front rooming, and then eventually you hit it off the dribble, right? It wasn't even the self bounce.
Yeah, I just hit it off the dribble. Yeah.
And now you just
Well, you got yours off a lob first, didn't you?
yeah, just like normal self lob.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I still remember that. Good times, dude. 2020.
Yeah,
Good
well,
times for dunk.
you were like 17, right? 18?
I turned I turned 18 that year, but yeah, I was 18 for the behind the back thing. I'd like just turned 18.
Back when their back was healthy, right?
Yeah,
100%.
my back was beautiful back then, dude. I didn't know what back
Yeah.
pain was back then.
You and me.
That's a good that's a good segue into actual like today's topic. So we're going to be talking about back pain today. And
Mm-hmm.
all three of us, Travis, plenty of experience with back pain. Tom, same thing, and myself, I'm a newbie to this game. So right now, just getting my first dose.
Very relevant. Very relevant.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess we'll kick this off with, I guess Travis talking about his, you know, situation and experience and what's happened and everything.
Yeah. All right. So just pretty much like my back pain story, like how did it start and kind of like what happened to me and all that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
All right. Well, geez, I don't really know where to start, so I'm just gonna make your guys' ears bleed for a second, all right? So I get like here's the thing, my back injury, it was like a very slow startup. Like it didn't all happen at once, at one point in my life, just some symptoms started to appear, and it was like it wasn't bad at all really for a while. It was just like a little bit of a nagging pain. It was annoying sometimes. But since I didn't know anything about backs during that time period, that tiny thing that was easily preventable turned into something much more. It just kept on snowballing and getting worse and worse and worse. I didn't really know what to do. So I guess it just started out as like a disc bulge, and it just came from like I mean, it could have came from a number of things, but the thing that I kind of credit it to is I was squatting with improper technique for a long time. Now, the reason that I was squatting with improper technique was just because of butt wink. I was just going too low for my anatomy. I can squat really low, like I can get all the way down to the floor, but I have butt wink. So like me
Yeah,
not knowing at the time, I'm like, oh, if I can make it to the floor, I must have like the most perfect squatting anatomy ever. Like I can do this. So that's what I thought for a while, and I never had any issues with it. And then all of a sudden in like March 2022, something like that, I started getting some back pain of lifting, and I didn't really know what it was. So we just kind of treated it, and we kind of treated it and kind of adjusted it the way, or treated it the way Stuart McGill does, and it worked for a while, and I didn't really think much of it. And then I guess flash forward to the big thing at Dunk Camp 2022. I just, dude, there's just so much. Like, it's just such a big story. I don't know. Like we got it. I think the first injury happened in like March, like I said, and then dunk camp was in June. We dialed down the pain for dunk camp, and I thought I was pain free. And then at dunk camp, I was trying East Bays when I wasn't really supposed to be, and then I herniated it really bad, messed it up, and yeah, that's kind of it. Well, is that good? How do you guys like that?
Very
No,
good.
it's definitely it's
Solid.
definitely really
All right.
interesting.
Well, I didn't know how much to say because there's a lot to say.
It's interesting you brought up the whole butt week situation, because you're not the only person that's had the spine, with excessive bump week and excessive flexion at the bottom of a squat. And there's certain people, in this industry that will disregard that and say that, that's not a problem. That's not an issue with someone's technique. I think that's completely stupid, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I guess.
yeah, because there's been so many situations where people have hurt themselves in that position, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and it's just not a position that's necessary to be in training anyways. So,
Mhm.
I hurt my spine in excessive flexion, not necessarily doing a squat, but or butt winking, but it's more doing lying leg raises and then lifting my hips up a little bit too high on one of the reps, and felt something
Mhm.
go, and I'm like, oh fuck, and then it felt fine, and then it started to come on more and more and more throughout the day, and then the next day it felt like it's flared up completely, and then it's like, oh shit, you know. And
Mhm.
then I know Tom's was a completely different situation, right?
What, my initial injury?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I never actually had the pain in my spine or like anywhere near my back. Like sometimes I would get tightness on like the QL muscle, and then I'd just like, get it massaged out or whatever. But that's like, that was at once every blue moon. And when I actually did my like spine injury, it was just like a one-off thing. It wasn't like Travis's, which got worse, 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 and then went. It kind of just went. And I thought it was a glute tear for like a good month because it was just only pain in like the right side of my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, so you thought it was a glute tear, and then
And then I went and saw someone for it, and they're just like, yeah, your glute's completely fine. And actually where I did it, which was L1, L2, even if you just put like the slightest bit of pressure on it, like on my actual spine, it hurt like a lot. And I was like, oh no. And then
Mhm.
yeah.
damn. So yours was like L1, L2. I'm pretty sure like mine's around that area. It's definitely lower. Like
Mm.
it's somewhere between L1 and L3. And then where is yours, Travis?
Mine was L5. It was between L5 and S1. It was just like the very bottom, unfortunately.
Yeah. What the fuck? Okay. And that was doing
Yeah.
East Bay, wasn't it?
Oh, sorry, what was that?
Doing an East Bay.
Yeah, like I guess technically it happened because of an East Bay, but like I said, like the first bit of back pain started with like just butt winking, squatting improperly, and that like let me say this, like just doing an East Bay isn't going to kill your back because it's not loaded flexion. Like you're in the air, there's no load on your spine, you can move freely. It's not really going to do anything. But me, I was already predisposed to a pretty bad back injury. Like it wasn't completely herniated before dunk camp, but I damaged it enough where it was pretty sensitized for a while, and just jumping would hurt it, lifting with improper form would hurt it pretty bad. Um, so yeah, that's what the accumulating event was, I guess, was that East Bay, but I don't think I would have gotten injured like that if I didn't already kind of beat it up with the squats and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something through your experience you definitely advise against. It's like if you have a back flare up, avoiding dunks like East Bays and underbows and stuff, that where you go more into flexion, especially in the earlier stages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I always recommend people with back pain to avoid those dunks for the time being. Like here's the thing, like I've heard of a lot of people pushing through back pain doing those types of dunks and they end up being fine. But like in my particular case, I was not fine. I was out for 7 months because I was doing something after a bad like build up of back pain. So like I just think it's you because you want to play it safe, you know what I mean? Like if you have a back injury, you don't want to play a fire too much and potentially make it like a ton worse. So whenever I have a back flare, I just kind of avoid that for the time being. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
But you,
100%.
um, you hurt your back in dunk camp 2022. So did Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking injury camp.
Dude, there were so many injuries to that camp. Dude, something's always happening at dunk camp. I don't know exactly what Nathan did. He literally just went up for a vertec and just paid. I don't I don't know what he did, but like he was struggling hard. I don't know.
Yeah. Wait, did you find when your back was at its worst? Like, I'm pretty sure I saw this in your story. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you would go for a jump, and the second your back like went in the slightest bit of flexion, it would like almost shut off your leg. Like you just
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much because my back injury was just something pressing on a nerve. Like the extruded disc material would be on that nerve. So like, in the early stages, if I were to try to go and jump or do anything like that, it would just move the back a little bit. And since that material is still there, it would just press it right into the nerve. And since that nerve is like traveling from like that part of your disc like down into muscles and stuff, it just kind of makes everything along that pathway act as if it was injured. So if you like press it really hard, it's just like, ooh, let's just shut down everything, I guess. I don't know. That's the best I can explain that, but yeah, that happened quite a bit.
Okay. And then how did you go about, because yeah, explain to people, how did you go about, recovering from dunk camp 2022? Because there was like ups and downs, right? Like it wasn't just, you got injured and then it got better, 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 better. And then you're here now. There was definitely
Yeah.
points, right?
Yeah, it was up and down for a while. And for the first month, I literally made zero progress. And it was because I was doing something just completely wrong. I was missing literally like the biggest piece, in my opinion, when it comes to restoring like a disc related back injury. So the question was just kind of like what I did after dunk camp to kind of get it healing, right? All right. So, during dunk camp, I did the injury. And like I said, it's like a disc related injury. I extruded a bunch of disc material onto my nerves. So that's not really going to go anywhere unless you do something about it, is that's what I learned. So you're familiar with walking with back pain, right? Like walking is just so good for your back because
Yep.
it gives you a little bit of gentle spine motion. It can kind of gently do some nerve flossing. It's just great for your back. So without that nerve flossing, that extruded disc material that I had was just going to stay on my spinal disc, nerves, all that good stuff, right? And for the first month, I didn't do any type of like rehab walking, so to speak, because I just thought I was above that. I'm like, oh, it's like my old back injury. It'll be fine. I just need to desensitize it, do some lifts. It'll be all good. And really didn't get any better. So eventually I'm like, okay, well, this isn't getting any better. Something needs to change here. This back injury is really bad. And I started walking. Literally, I think Stuart McGill recommends to go on a 30-minute walk every single day. Some guys do it differently. Sometimes I'll go on like a 10-minute walk in the morning, then I'll do like more walks throughout the day, depending on how I'm feeling. A lot of different ways to do it, but walking is like the most important thing I did in the early stages to build enough capacity to start doing lifts or jumps or anything like that. Yeah, walking was my saving grace in the beginning for sure.
Awesome.
Yep, pretty cool.
So
Yeah. So what about you, Tom?
what did I do?
Yep.
Well, the walking thing I've only really started incorporating in the last maybe 4 or 5 months. So the first 3 months, I mean, I did unintentional walking. I didn't know I was actually helping my back, but I would always find if I had a dunk session, my back would always feel like way better in a weird way, as long as I wasn't doing like, like between the legs and stuff. Because I remember a few times when it was real fresh, I'd go for it between the legs, and then it'd feel like I tore my glute again, or I'd have the same thing.
Yeah.
It was really bad. I remember like there was this one, I think it might have been a Wednesday session. Like the second I would hit my right foot after my penultimate. And I went into like the slides bit of back flexion. It just wouldn't let me jump. Like I wouldn't even get off the floor. It just like stopped me in my tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a very similar situation to Travis. So, after
That's
that,
yeah.
fucked all the squats and stuff off for a long time and did front squats for a good 6 months. No back squats.
And your back, your discs tolerated the front squats fine.
Yeah, front squats never hurt it for some reason. Like it actually felt. If I was going to deadlift, I'd always front squat first because it always made my back feel way better for some reason. Yeah.
Like right after?
Yeah, like right after. Like it's
Yeah.
almost lubricating my back.
And then how would it feel the next day? Like fine.
If it was just front squats, it would feel good. If I did any kind of deadlifting or hinging movement, sometimes I'd wake up with a little bit more pain. Like I'd reach over to get something and I'd feel like a tiny bit of a pull, but it was never worse. If that makes sense. Like it always got a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So once I figured that out, that front squats were kind of the key, and just get rid of back squats for the time being. Pretty much since then, it's been pretty linear, just in terms of recovering from it.
Yeah, that's so interesting how you were saying that, like, you felt a lot better after dunking, just getting that movement in. Because I've experienced this exact same thing, where like after every Saturday, like the Sunday and the Monday, like my back just was so much better. As long as I don't do anything dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
Like go to like heat deflection and like Travis was saying, like it always feels better. Even after sprinting too, as well.
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
during that time period, like maybe a couple months before dunk camp, when I was dunking 3 times a week, like Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the reason I was like dunking on Monday and Wednesday is not necessarily because I wanted to get more jump reps in. Like obviously that helped and stuff, but I knew that on those days I wanted to get either a squat or a deadlift in. And if I just went in straight into the gym and just did like a bike warm up, isos, whatever, and I went into my lift, I know I wouldn't be able to push it as hard than if I did a dunk session before. It sounds like really weird. Like I'm actually doing more loading with the dunk session, but it did something to my back and my glute, and I always felt completely fine going into my session. I could push 100% after dunking.
Yeah, definitely everyone's situation, everyone's just definitely their own little unique snowflake, everyone's situation is just so different, even though the injury might be similar in terms of the disc, bulging. It's just
Yeah.
like there's no one size fits all really with this injury. And I guess that's what makes it so interesting, right? So like talk about like your progression in terms of coming back, like Travis, in terms of like, did you try front squats? Like what was your situation there?
My situation was super weird because my back injury is like an extreme case. Like literally coming back, like before I was walking, that first month before I was walking, before I made any type of progress, like I would try to squat, like barbell back squat. Literally could barely do it. I would go down to a quarter squat position, if that, with like 95 pounds in the barbell. I don't know what that is in kg. I don't know. But I would do that. I literally couldn't make it down to a quarter squat. It would be just terrible pain, just like the compressive load from the barbell, my back going down. I just literally couldn't do it. So after a while, I was just continuing the walk, and this is gonna be like the main thing for me was just nerve flossing, and that's walking. And then there's like a higher level to nerve flossing. I don't know how I would demonstrate that here, but pretty much like you do something with your legs. You like how's the best way to explain it? So like think about it like this. You have all the nerves like in your spinal cord, right? Like they're all kind of going up through your head and stuff like that in your back. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like if I move my head forward, it pulls all those nerves this way, correct?
Yeah.
Now, if I would do something with my legs, like maybe kick my foot outward, it's gonna pull the nerve fibers that way, if this makes any sense at all. So eventually I was doing like a higher level of nerve flossing where I would do a movement with my legs or something to pull the nerves that way. And at the same time, I would be doing a movement with my head. So it's like pulling the nerves back and forth. And it's much more intense than when you're nerve flossing with walking. So doing this over time, you're just going to slowly get the disc herniation to kind of, what's the best way to put it? You're going to be removing the impingement from the extruded disc material from the nerves by doing this, because nerve flossing. This is going to sound weird, but like nerves have the ability to chemically dissolve as long as they have ability to move. So if they're impinged from a back injury and you're nerve flossing, it's going to slowly dissipate over time. It's going to remove tension. So that was my kind of main thing in the beginning. It was just nerve flossing like crazy as much as I can. The only thing about that, walking is very safe, but the other nerve flossing that I was talking about, if you have back pain, you want to be very careful with that one. And I highly recommend looking up some like Stuart McGill videos or getting one of his books so you could read a little bit more about it, because it can be very dangerous to do that. I think he called it tickling the dragon's tail. It can be very effective, but if you do it wrong or if you don't really need that for your back injury, it can make it a lot worse. But yeah, that was the main thing for me in the beginning. It was just literally walking and nerve flossing, because I couldn't squat, I couldn't deadlift a barbell off the ground, do anything like that. So literally for the longest time, I was just nerve flossing it up. Eventually, after enough progress was made, I started like doing some baby jumps again, and then like fast forward to like months and months down the road, eventually I could start going a tiny bit deeper on my back squat. Um, but I guess flash forward all the way until now, even like now, which is over a year since the injury happened, I can't get down into a squat position that I used to be able to go in. I used to be able to go to the floor, like I said, wasn't ideal for my anatomy, but now I can go to like almost a half squat, and then I start feeling my back, and it's been a year, so that's just been kind of the timeline. It's just been very, very slow but linear, I guess. Did that answer the question?
Perfect.
Yeah, no, it's definitely really interesting. And did you experiment with like dead hangs and stuff like that at all, or no?
Like just hanging to get rid of back pain.
Oh,
Um,
just yeah, yeah.
Not a ton. Like I know some people have success with that, but for my particular back injury, it didn't really give me that much relief. If anything, the main things that give me relief was just doing like the McGill Big Three or going for a walk or something like that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I know that's something you did quite a lot, Tom, is dead hangs.
Yeah, yeah. I've done dead hangs like since the start of my dunk journey.
Yeah.
Just because I've always heard that it's good for your back. So I don't know if that was the one of the reasons that it healed and recovered, or if it was the walking, or if it was whatever it was. But I also do dead hangs because I do a lot of like bench press, and it kind of stretches out my shoulder, and
Mm-hmm.
you stay healthy in my shoulder. But yeah, one thing I want to say to people listening is pretty much what you have learned from this is, one, ideally don't hurt your back, because the recovery for backs can be over a year. I mean, look at us both, because you still can't get back into your original squat positions, right?
Yeah. And like I can't even live properly anymore, dude. Like I can't do power cleans or anything still. Like I literally cannot lift from the floor. Like a few weeks ago, or maybe a few months ago, I was trying to deadlift 225 off the floor. It's 225 pounds. And my max used to be way over that, but I would try to lift it up and I'd have to go very slowly, but I just feel tons of pressure in my disc. And I'm like, dude, this just isn't worth it. I still can't do this.
Yeah,
So yeah, don't injure your back. There's a lot of complications. There's a lot of different situations, and yeah, it's better to just stay healthy. Use the advice that we're giving you to stay out of pain.
100%. Now, I actually have a question for you, and it involves what I like to call your sex machine. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Do you want to explain it to everyone in Austin who's probably like, what the fuck is going on?
Fucking
So,
hell.
so just my squat machine in my gym,
Man,
right?
this podcast is going fucking south real quick.
You're just talking about my squat machine, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Not the other machine, right?
Yeah, not not the other one. Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so I in my home gym, I purchased a Squat Max MD. It's just it's a belt squat machine. But from my
Oh,
understanding, it's not like your typical belt squat. Like this one is recommended by Stuart McGill, and it's been proven to target the same muscles as if you were just doing like a loaded barbell back squat. So it's essentially the same thing. It just does not have the load on your back. And squatting this way allows me to go pretty much as deep as I want to without having to worry about any type of back loading or back pain or anything like that. And yeah, it's been incredible for me this year. I got it in, I don't remember exactly when I got it, but it was like early this year, maybe like February or something like that. And it's been insane because like before I got it, I could do those loaded barbell quarter squats, maybe a little below quarter squats, and that was what I was doing to kind of train. But I would still feel my back doing that. And like, here's the thing about back pain, you never want to train through back pain because anytime you're feeling the pain, you're essentially like picking a scab or sensitizing it to feel more pain. You know what I mean? Like Stuart McGill always says this, like if you like stub your toe into something, it's gonna hurt obviously, but if you just keep doing it over and over and over again, eventually you can just like barely touch your toe on that and it's gonna be stinging even if you barely touch it. And the same thing's true for back pain. The more you piss off your back, the more pain you can potentially feel. So with me, squatting without the squat machine was just, it wasn't doing a ton. Like I was getting training stimulus, which is good, but since I was still feeling my back, I felt like I was kind of keeping my back in a very similar position. I wasn't really making tons of progress, but I got the belt squat machine, and literally from that point forward, I never had back pain squatting. So that was just a major a major win, I guess, because I was able to squat pain free, and that has allowed my back to kind of further desensitize and adapt without being in pain. You know what I mean?
Do you have to watch anything with the squat machine? Like, do you have to, keep a slow tempo, or can you pretty much just send it as heavy and fast as you want?
I mean, I think I can send them as heavy and as fast as I want to be honest. Yeah. I don't really think there's anything to really watch out for. Yeah, no, I think I'm good to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how much was that?
It was, I don't know what it would be Australian, but it was around 2000 USD. Now that's a hefty investment, obviously, but it was just something I had to do. I'm like, yo, I can barely even train. I love dunking. I love doing this thing, and if I can't do it, that's gonna be a problem. So
Yeah, you didn't really have
yeah,
a
I got it. Yeah, but honestly, I'm super happy with the investment because not only does it allow me to squat pain free without my back getting pissed off at me, but dude, it is the most insane calf raise machine ever. Like I just stand up on it and I tie the belt to my waist, obviously. I put as much weight on there as possible. And I can do calf raises standing with as much weight as I want to. Like I was repping out like close to 400 yesterday. Like it's incredible for that reason too. So there's a lot of benefits from it. There's like I don't have it, but I'm pretty sure you can buy a hip thrust attachment. So you can do hip thrusts on it. There's like a little stand. So I can do depth drops off of it. It has a lot of purposes. So I'm very happy that I have it, I guess.
That's super awesome, I guess. I guess the
Yeah.
moral of the story so far is if you have a back injury, and there's going to be quite a few people listening to this that have a back injury, there's still so much you can do to progress in your training. There's still so much you still can do without loading your
Mhm.
spine and causing pain. Some examples like leg curls, leg extension, leg press, lunge variations where you're not, putting compressive forces on your spine, and even with doing a lunge, you can load the legs
Yeah.
still to a great amount without actually having to hold as much weight as like a bilateral movement like a squat too. So you can get a greater
Mhm.
stimulus from those exercises without having to, increase the loading as much as you would with those heavier bilateral movements too. So you can get quite a good like similar stimulus. So for
Mhm.
example, if you squat 120, you can use half that weight doing like a step up lunge, and get a similar, stimulus from that movement.
Mhm.
So, and like the only issue with the back is obviously loading and training the posterior chain, you know, and that's where, that's where there can be some issues because, things can be quite sensitive in terms of, you know, loading it through a hinge pattern, like a deadlift or, like you've experienced like a Romanian deadlift, you know, things like that. Even hip thrust. Like I tried hip thrust last week and like immediately was like, no, fuck no. You know,
Mhm.
like it was the machine hip thrust as well. So, you know, like, so like what's been like your experience in terms of like loading, you know, those muscles, your hamstrings, your glutes, you know, so you can get a good stimulus through them, or have you been able to do that? And I guess Tom, you can answer this
Yeah.
question as well.
Mhm. Yeah, so I've been able to do that in some ways. Like I don't use any like, well, I guess first off, I train in a home gym, so I just have like a few things available. I don't have like a ton of like gym machines where you just kind of isolates the muscle and stuff like that. Like I don't have like a leg extension machine or anything like that, or a hamstring machine. But I do have
Yeah,
a Nordic bench, and I've been using that to kind of hit like the posterior chain back there. I can also do hip thrust, no problem. I know some people with back injuries, they can't do hip thrust with it. It for some reason hurts them quite a bit. For me, it's not the case. Like back injuries are so specific to the individual. Like you said earlier, like you can have similar injuries, but like it just reacts so differently for whatever reason, and I don't really know the answer to that. But yeah, I've been able to hip thrust. I've been able to do Nordics. I have these bands that I tie around my legs, and I can kind of like do those like those sidewalk things. I don't know what they're called.
yeah,
Uh,
like expand shovels or band walks, like all this
yeah,
crab
yeah,
walks,
band walks.
monster
Like
walks, all the same thing, pretty
yeah,
much.
band walks. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty much what I've been doing. And then of course I do the squatting and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty much been my main tools for a while now because I'm still limited, I guess. Like I can't really do RDLs as much as I love RDLs, can't power clean, deadlift, or anything like that. So I've just been doing what I can do, basically. And like one thing I do want to say really quick, just in case people are listening to this and I'm like scaring them because of like how bad my back injury was sounding. I had an extreme case of an injury. It was just really bad because I didn't know a lot about it in the beginning and I just allowed it to get to that point. Like I've never heard of people with like a background that sounds exactly like mine. So like I don't want you to stress too much, but just keep your back injury in check.
yeah.
Like use
As long
use
as
the
you,
tools
yeah,
given you to yeah, just to
as
kind
long
of
as you,
keep it in
yeah,
check. Because
as long as
like
you're not, yeah.
yeah, no,
Go on, then I'll
I
say.
know what you're saying. But just like it can get a lot worse if you don't treat it, is what I'm trying to say. So just use the tools we're giving you, keep it in check, and you'll be fine. I just wanted to put that out there before I'm stressing people out. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to buy a $2,000 squat machine to squat again or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long as you're not stupid and you know you're smart in the earlier
Mm-hmm.
stages, then you're gonna be fine. You know, another extreme example like is David Lade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like his
Yeah,
back is like
I all that
fucked.
wrong.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
and he's done a lot of work with Stuart McGill. Like he's a big influencer, like in the like bodybuilding, like aesthetics kind of community. And like earlier on when he was getting these symptoms, he just pushed through it, painkillers, deadlifted anyway.
Yep.
Now it's been fucking like 3 4 years to where he hasn't been on a deadlift or a back squat or anything properly because of just constantly just pushing through it and ignoring it and not knowing, you know.
Yeah,
So
pushing through back pain is the worst. I mean, I did all that wrong in the beginning. I
yeah,
was dunking through back pain. I was trying to squat through back pain because like I had never really had a significant injury up until that point. I had some like occasional knee pain, tendon related issues and stuff, but never like a hardcore injury like that. So I'm just like, oh, I'll be fine. I'm just gonna dunk. I don't care. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I just, kept being stupid and I destroyed the dunk camp. And yeah, just gotta be smart with your backs, dude. They're so delicate. If you mess it up, it can just get way out of line. It can mess up your training for a while. It's something nobody should really have to go through. Because like another thing about back injuries is I'm sure Tom can kind of attest to this a little bit too, since his is pretty bad as well. Like back injuries takes away from your daily life too. Like not just in the gym when you're trying to, deadlift or back squat, or in the gym when you're trying to dunk or do an East Bay or something like that. Just your daily life, like sitting on your couch playing video games or watching TV or something. It's gonna hurt then too. You're gonna flex your spine, you're gonna move it the wrong way, and it's gonna be a super sharp pain. Riding in the car, like,
Yeah.
dude, back injuries can really kind of take over your life. So it's just I don't know. That's why I'm so passionate about back injuries now because I don't think anyone should have to go through what I went through or what Tom went through. It just gets in the way, dude. So much stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like you don't really give a fuck, right? If you don't like have the injury, you don't give a fuck really.
Mm.
But as soon as you get the injury, it's just amazing like how how passionate someone gets, like you, like Tom, like even now
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like dealing with it a little bit now, it's kind of like oh shit, like now we're gonna deal with this, and you just get so
Mm-hmm.
intrigued and want to learn so much about it. You end up getting a passion for like an injury, but it's kind
Yeah.
of a good thing in a sense because it gives you the tools and the knowledge to, better help others very effectively and kind of
Yeah.
tell your story so it doesn't happen to other people. And, for ourselves, like Tom and I, we're both coaches. So, like, dealing with these injuries, it's kind of like we're like the beta testers, for all our
Mm-hmm.
athletes. Like,
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
like, it's like the more injuries we experience, the better we're going to be able to help the people we train, and
Mm-hmm.
the better our business is going to, do, the better results we're going to be able to get people because there's not going to be a thing, on earth that happens to someone that, we're not going to not know how to deal with, because we've had it. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
blessing in disguise in that sense. And, I guess a similar situation for you in terms of your injury, you'd be able to help others too and provide and get on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
like you have, even though it's such a bad and shit thing to happen, there's a lot of good that comes out of it as well, I guess, in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, like I always think of injuries as like it sucks, but it's also just like a blessing, you know what I mean? Because like you said, like before an injury happens to you, you don't care anything about it. You're not worried about learning or reading about it, anything like that, because it just doesn't matter to you. But once you actually get that injury and it's messing up your life, it's taking you away from doing what you want to do, then that's where the gift comes in. 'Cause it's like, okay, well, now I have to learn everything about this injury. I have to do as much digging as I possibly can to figure out how to fix it. And then, by the end of it, you're equipped with the knowledge to not only fix yourself with future back flare-ups, but you can help other people. So yeah, it sucks, but it's a gift. I always think about that. I'm like, if I could take it back and go back to dunk camp with like without having that back injury happen, would I do it? And I don't think I would. Like as terrible as it was, I feel like it's made me in a sense who I am today. Just kind of being able to like learn what I have about backs. It's like altered the way I train. It's altered the way I feel about my body. Like I'm much more careful now. I pay attention to my injuries a lot more in depth than ever. Like I don't really think I'd change it. I mean, I've learned an incredible amount just from kind of suffering for that time period. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess in a super fucked up way, it kind of makes training more interesting because it's like, oh, you don't know what's going to happen. Oh, is my back going to tolerate this? Is it going to flare up? Or I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, I might have to change the exercise. And in a way, you almost get a little bit more variety because you get to kind of auto
Mhm.
regulate based on how your back's feeling. So it kind of makes training a little bit more interesting. Or at least for me, anyways, that's been my experience, you
Yeah,
know?
no, 100%. I can totally relate to that. Like literally yesterday, I skipped one part of my lift because like having that back injury, I have like a what's the best way to put this? I'm gonna put it in a stupid way. In my brain, I basically have like a back health bar up there, and I know how my back's feeling. And literally, like yesterday during my lift, I had some like snatches in the beginning, and I'm like, man, I don't know because like my back was feeling a little weird. I've been loading it a little bit more recently, of flexion dunks and stuff like that. And I already did some like power clean motions like the previous, was it Monday or last Friday or something? Because I've been trying to experiment with like building back in stuff like that very slowly in a pain-free way. And yeah, my back was feeling a little weird yesterday. So I just skipped snatches altogether. I'm like, you know what? My back's been making progress recently. I don't want to potentially aggravate it or do something that it's not really ready to do yet. So I skipped it. Like, um, this thing Stuart McGill always says really sticks with me. It's like, especially when you're dealing with an injury like that or dealing with a back injury, it's better to be undertrained than overtrained. So instead of like potentially risking my back in that particular case, I'm just like, I'm gonna back off. I'm just gonna let the adaptations take place, let my back heal up some more, and then when it's feeling good, I'll try some movements like that again. It's just you have to be very careful because, like I said, it's terrible to train through back pain, and ultimately you want to stay pain free as much as possible. Because how did Stuart McGill put it? I think he said like the more pain free days you have, the more pain free days you can have, or something like that. So it's pretty much the same thing, but if that makes sense, just stay pain free as much as you can, and that's going to take you a long way. But yeah, I can totally agree with that.
I feel like when you've hurt your back, especially in our case, it's a lot easier to hurt it than it is to not hurt it. Does that make sense?
Wait,
Like more things, especially when it's really sensitive, like it's a lot easier to just go a little bit too heavy or a little bit, do something different and hurt it than it is to not hurt it.
oh, like before you hurt it in the first place, it's like easy to develop.
No, once you've got it,
Oh yeah, okay, well I got it. I got back pain.
it's gonna be more things that are gonna fuck with it than.
Oh yeah.
So we have to be like super specific with what we can do. Like,
Oh yeah. Now I see what you're saying. Like you have back pain, and then like a lot more things are going to be able to potentially aggravate it now that you
yeah,
have that.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That went over my head the first time. But yeah. What was the question with that? I had to understand
No,
that.
it was more of just a statement. But I was gonna say, in terms of upper body, do you have a focus on that at the moment? Because I know Nathan, when he ever hits upper body, if he like overdoes it, he will always flare his back up. And I'm wondering if you have the same thing or if you're focusing on it right now. What's the situation with the upper?
Um, upper's not really my main focus right now. Like, I do enough upper to maintain, and I do enough upper to kind of. I literally just do upper for maintenance. Like, I'm not like going crazy right now trying to hit new bench PRs or anything like that. Like, I literally just do like literally for my upper body days, I do like 8 reps of like certain movements just to kind of get some stimulus going. And like I have an indented bicep from doing an elbow dunk. And one of the things that healed that for me was just doing like some like upper body maintenance, getting the muscle working and stuff like that. So that's just my experience right now of upper. Like I don't really have any issues with my back from upper body training. I just don't really do enough of it to kind of make a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what's been your experience with that, Tom?
What with back pain?
Yeah, and like training upper body.
I feel like most upper body exercises have been pretty safe to do. I actually found, the seated row, like the machine one, but you kind of like
Yeah,
it kind of like pulls you forward a little bit, and you kind of like rowing back and forth.
chest supported.
Fun?
The chest supported machine row.
No, not chest supported, not chest supported. Just your legs are out and you've got it in here, and then you're rowing.
The rowing machine, like the cardio one.
Yeah, it's like that, but it's the weighted one.
I don't know. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Seated cable row.
CDK, well, yeah, you know the one at Coburn,
Yeah.
like kind of in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Seated
found
cable row.
that
Yeah.
actually flared my back up like,
That flared it.
yeah, like a week and a
Yeah.
half ago. Kind of want to pull me forward. I went a little bit too heavy and my back like rounded.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've trained a few people in terms of like face-to-face training that have hurt their spines out in that way, going, trying to get too much of a stretch, like on the
Yeah.
eccentric part of the movement, and then they go into too much flexion, and then obviously that's flexion like loaded quite heavy, and then their back fucking goes,
Yeah. Yeah. I have a
So
weird story actually with upper body in my back, but like a positive story. But I don't really know why it makes sense, but this is what I kind of figured out. But when it was really bad and I was first trying to, incorporate lower body movements into my workout again. So at this point I hadn't done squats, deadlifts, or anything like that for like a week and a half. And what I actually ended up finding out is before I would front squat, when front squat's kind of like, would give it like a 1 or a 2 out of 10 pain. What I would do is do like 3 sets of bench before it. And weirdly enough, it almost like warmed my back up to the point where I could go and do the front squats without any pain. Maybe
it
because
might have been the extension.
maybe.
Yeah, I've heard Stuart McGill talk about, how extension can help some people.
Yeah,
Just of the thoracic spine.
yeah. And I've
You
literally
know,
found I could go straight into it and it would be a 0. And I was like, what the fuck? So that's when I started benching every day. It wasn't even
because
just benching was fun. It's actually because it helped my back.
I've
Tom, do you
experimented with this too, like going into extension of the spine. Like every time I like lie on my stomach in extension or like do some extension exercises, my back always feels better after.
Yeah. Tom, do you do a lot of like core bracing whenever you bench? Like, are you like bracing your core super hard?
I don't think about it super intentionally, but I do a big like breath like beforehand. Like I'm pretty rigid.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of like reasons of why that could be a thing where you like bench and then you go front squat after and you're just so like extra prepared, extra warmed up. I'm just thinking like maybe it has something to do with like the McGill Big Three. Like not the same thing, obviously, because you're doing bench, not McGill Big Three. But like one of the things McGill Big Three does is that like stiffens your core, and that stiffness from doing those movements can carry over for like an hour or two after you're done with it. So like you're just walking around, your core is like extra stiff, and that's gonna make it avoid those micro movements that's gonna cause pain. So maybe something like whenever you're doing that bench, something's getting like activated, or your core's getting like extra stiff or something like that. So you go to those other movements and you're just like an immovable brace, you know what I mean? Something like that. That could be it. I was just kind of thinking about that, thinking out loud.
That makes sense. And especially because I do a lot of pause work, like pause bench, like
Mhm.
you can't force
Yeah.
you don't have tension, it just sinks into your chest. But if you're pausing, you gotta make sure you actually brace.
Yeah. No, that could 100% be it. That's what I think it is at least. Could be.
Awesome.
So with the McGill Big Three, how many times a day were you guys doing it? Just once or multiple times?
Um,
2 for me.
yeah, just like I think generally Stuart McGill recommends to do it 3 times in the day because like since like I said, like you do it and that stiffness like stays in your core for like an hour or two after for most people. You pretty much just do it like I says. Like I'll do it in the morning if I have a bad back injury, and that's gonna kind of protect me for the morning. And then later on in the afternoon, I'll do it again. That's gonna protect me again until the evening. And then I'll do it again at night, and that's gonna kind of carry me through the rest of the day. But I didn't do 3 times for a long time. I mainly just did it like in the morning and then like before I trained or something, just to make sure I was like healthy enough and not pissing my back off before I finish training. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's what my was.
And like what variation did you do? Did you intensify it a lot to the point where it was very difficult when you did it 3 times a day, or it's just kind of like just a good stimulus to kind of get some activation going through there? What sort of
Um,
intensity were you working at?
yeah, so like for a while I was just doing like the most basic version of the McGill Big Three. I don't remember exactly what that version is. I know there's like a lot of different ways people do it. But for a while, yeah, I was just doing the most basic version that people generally recommend. And over time, it was getting a lot easier, and I didn't really feel it working as much. So there's a lot of ways to kind of ramp up the intensity. Obviously, you can do longer hold times. But there's ways to make the movements themselves a little bit harder. And yeah, over time, I just started like experimenting with it. I'd make the durations a little bit longer. I'd do the motions a little bit differently. Like try to make them as difficult as possible after a while. And now my McGill Big Three, it does not look like a McGill Big Three anymore. Well, it does, but like there's some like things about it that just look different now. Like I just do it differently just to make it like as hard as possible for myself because I've just done it every day for the past like year and a half. Eventually, you got to switch it up and make it more difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But does
Yeah,
that
hundred
answer your
percent.
question with another part of that?
No, no, it definitely answers it well.
Yeah.
But Tom, you said you were doing it like twice a day, right?
yeah, twice max. I didn't really try 3 times a day. Maybe I could have, but no, mainly 1 to 2.
Yeah, and you're just doing like the most basic version.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do the one when you're, moving your like kind of
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I'm not doing Travis Circus. I don't even know.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I need to
Have
record my Big Three one day.
I'm actually very
you
interested
guys
in what it looks like.
have you guys
Yeah.
tried the bird dogs, but where you're doing it in like a high plank position,
Bird dogs but in the high plank position.
where you got straight arms, straight legs?
Yeah, yeah, I do like that. Like my
That's
bird dog
yeah,
looks pretty normal. I just do like the drawing the boxes like Tom was talking
yeah,
about. Like that that's probably my most normal looking one. For the side plank though, like there's a lot of ways to do it. Like sometimes I'll just be on my side and then I'll like switch to like on like my like both arms on the floor, like a front plank. And then I'll go to the other arm. So I side plank this, then I rotate,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
I've done
rotation
that.
can make that side plank part a little bit more difficult. Sometimes I just lay on one side and I like rotate my torso while I'm on that side. And that just kind of gives you some like torsional stimulus and stuff like that. And then my what is it, the curl up? My curl up looks so different. Like usually people like put. I wonder if I can show. Now my floor's too messy. Like most people put their hands underneath their back and they like barely lift up and they just hold that position there. I put one hand under my back and it's similar to the bird dog. I'll put like my arm out here and I'll put that same leg out and I'll like control it up and down while doing the curl ups. Like my head and stuff's barely off the ground, so I'm getting that cord contraction while doing this, and I do that both sides. So that's a way I made the curl up a lot more difficult. I think Stuart McGill calls it the dead bug or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I have upgraded my McGill Big Three quite a bit. Yeah.
It's
Oh, and I guess
amazing.
before I do the McGill Big Three, I do the cat camel, cat cow. I know people call it different things. It's just essentially the you move all the way into spinal flexion and move all the way into extension, like
Yeah,
on all fours. So like there's no load on your spine there. It's just moving freely.
yeah.
I do that like I usually do 10 reps like at a pretty moderate pace. And that just kind of like what's the right word? It's like your spinal disc have like a loading memory. So like if you go sit down for a while, your spine's gonna kind of remember that seated position. So like before you kind of do something that potentially move your spine, like it's dunking or something, I always do the cat cow because it's gonna move those discs and it's gonna kind of adapt them to that loading memory. It's gonna make them move with a little bit less stress, a little bit less risk and whatnot. So I always do that before the McGill Big Three. And then that on top of the McGill Big Three prepares my spine for movement. It stiffens the spine to prevent it from moving. Yeah, every single time I do anything, I do that.
And is that something you did earlier on, or is that something you've adopted since it started to feel better?
The cat cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't doing that in the very beginning. So it took a little bit for me to learn about nerve flossing and how important it really was. Um, so like I said, I did that walking in the beginning, and that was doing a bit for me. And then eventually, I think it was after my first call of Stuart McGill, we were talking a little bit about nerve flossing, like the more intense way that I was talking about, and that did a lot for me. And I'm like, okay, so moving the spine, if you're doing it the right way, can actually be helpful. So that's when I started implementing the cat cow. And yeah, it was like probably like a little the cat cow was probably like 2 months after the injury. Cause like at the time that's still pretty risky because like I was like to do the cat cow, you have to pretty much put your spine in like a fully flexed position. And that's like the position that I died in pretty much. So it was pretty risky and it felt weird at first, but like, the more I did it, the more I was kind of doing that, the better it felt. Because the cat cow is basically nerve flossing, you know what I mean? You're moving it back and forth, up and down. You're getting some nerve flossing action going on there. So it kind of further removed the impingement from my disc material on the nerves and stuff like that. And then I kept walking. Nerve flossing saved me. If it wasn't for nerve flossing, those nerves would still be getting pinched right now. But yeah, super important stuff.
No, 100%. 100%. Okay, so we got a meeting to get to. So we're gonna have to end the podcast there, unfortunately. I could keep talking about this for another hour.
I could talk
But
about backs all day.
yeah, so unfortunately, yeah, we're gonna end the podcast there. But what were we gonna say, Tom?
I was gonna say part two at some point for sure. We have to.
I'm so down for part two. We can talk about backs all day.
Yeah, no, like let us know in the comments of this video if you guys are keen to hear more about this injury. Because really, like for dunkers, right, the big three for dunkers are knees, I guess, ankles, and back, or you could like put Achilles in there as well, I guess. But
Mhm.
you could tie in Achilles and ankle injuries, with the ankle. So like ankle, knees, back. That's the big three injuries with dunk. It's the most common things, you know, even with basketball players as well.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely super interesting stuff. But yeah, without further ado, guys, if you guys are looking for training, you guys are looking for coaching, click the link in our Instagram bio. All right, you can fill out a form there. But we'll catch you guys in the next podcast.
Cheers.